This is Critical Commentary with Maurice Williams. Today's show will be discussing a tweet that Stu Peters sent me, the racist and anti-Semitic, and then we'll be discussing DEI because some comments that Michelle Obama made recently have made the news. Blacks, Hispanics, and whites can't read. Why do you think I started a podcast? It's a fucking racist thing with you niggas, and that's why I'm coming at you niggas next. They love to talk about black violence. Have you heard of white violence? White people commit violent crime at 3 times the rate of Asians. When is Nick Fuentes going to talk about white violence? Everybody's arguing about their 2 genders. I sat next to hermaphrodite in math class. Am I allowed to talk about the Jews? If she wanted, we could do it in the morning. Yawning, letting my eyes stretch, baby, I ain't a novice. I've been a dog, she FaceTime, but I never call. So to get things started, Stu Peters is mostly known for being anti-Semitic. He speaks about a lot of Jewish conspiracies. He believes that Jews control America and controls the larger world. So over this weekend, I tweeted him and just asked him why does he also dislike black people, and he sent me a response, so I wanted to respond on camera and kind of dissect what he said. So I asked Stu why you dislike blacks, and his response was, blacks are 13% of America, but 30% of the murders. They're responsible for 70% of the interracial crime, 80% of the police shootings, and 90% of black babies are fatherless. The IQ averages are 85. He also says they're most likely to rape, rob, and assault. Their culture glorifies violence, promiscuity, and entitlement. So as you can see, there's a lot to unwrap here. So I'd just like to start with the 13%. That represents 50 million people. So his next comment was that they commit 50% of the murders. So yes, the black population does represent 50% of the murders, but I don't understand why Stu Peters dislikes 50 million black people because of the 10,000 or so blacks who commit murder every year. Also, I don't understand why he has a problem with blacks because of interracial crime, because crime is only committed by about 6% of blacks in totality. So of the 50 million blacks, only 6% are committing crime. So again, I feel like he's stereotyping the large group of blacks based upon what a small minority is doing. Now, in terms of blacks glorifying violence, promiscuity, and entitlement, I think that entertainment as a whole glorifies crime, promiscuity, and violence. So if you look on TV, if I were to judge white culture by pop music, I would say the singers talk about having sex outside of marriage, and they talk about partying and drinking. If I listen to rock music, they talk about drugs. If I watch different television stations or movies, there's a lot of crime, a lot of shootings. I don't believe that people judge the white culture by entertainment, so I don't believe that black people should be judged by entertainment. I do understand there's a larger percentage of blacks who are committing murder than the percentage of whites in terms of their total population. Same thing with welfare, and I'm not sure about promiscuity. There's no statistic for it, but I mean, it's possible that blacks are, I do believe that whites get married at a higher percentage, but I'm not sure about the sexual relation aspect in terms of promiscuity. But I do believe the cultures are different. So I can understand Stu maybe saying that the cultures are different and there's some things about black culture that I don't like. But I don't understand why he's stating and defining black culture by its negatives. A more appropriate way to say you have issues with the black community is just to say that there are some issues that I believe that the black culture could... either you could say they can work on, or you could just say that they could highlight more of the positives. I do believe that blacks try to highlight the positive things that we do, but people aren't going to talk about scientists often in the news. What people really cover mostly in the news are negative things. When something goes wrong, that's what gets covered. So in terms of whites and blacks, if whites are not a part of the inner city or a part of the urban community, they're not seeing everything we're doing. They're just seeing what's reported, and news basically just reports negative things. So I would just tell Stu, maybe hang around more black people, maybe learn more about the culture, and you may see and view us different. Also, in terms of these statistics that he brought up, if you look at whites with welfare, there are about 20 million whites who use some form of welfare. So that's like 10% of their population. So it's a significant portion of whites who use welfare. And then if you look at something like West Virginia, I believe it's 90% white, 4% black, and they have a higher rate of welfare, rape, and violent crime than the national average. So just being around white people would not fix the problem, because amongst whites in places like West Virginia, and as I've named before, Kentucky, Oklahoma, various places in Appalachia, there is a crime and violence problem. So it's not just a black thing, but like I have said before, it's more of a social economic issue. And then also in terms of crime, not necessarily murder and assault, but child pornography. Mostly that's men. So about 98% of the child pornography arrests are men. So that's a problem across the board for men. But race-wise, 5% of the arrests are blacks. Blacks represent 13% of the population, as he said, but only 5% of the child pornography arrests. Whereas whites represent 50% of the population, and there's 80% of the child pornography arrests. So even though blacks have a problem with violence and murder, I think we should highlight that and focus on it, not highlight it. Society, it's okay for people to discuss it. I think black people should work on the murder rate, because the black murder rate is off the charts. But outside of just murder, whites have an issue with child pornography. So I just wanted to be fair and balanced and say that both cultures have their problems. So like Stu called out the black murderers, I hear you. We need to call it out and work on it. Hopefully you hear me calling out white people with the child pornography crime statistics. Actually, I responded to Stu. I guess we could have people check out the tweet, but when Stu tweeted me back, I hit him back with some facts. Not sure if he checked them out, and then I tagged people because, that's just how I am. But I just stated more of some of the things I told you guys in that response to Stu. In other news, Michelle Obama was being interviewed. I'm not sure by who, but I saw it on my Twitter feed, and this is one of the videos where Michelle actually says, all my scores said I did not belong in Princeton, and people saw my skin color and they said I was aiming too high. So we'll check out that clip, and then there's another tweet I saw somebody commenting on this as well.
I wasn't good on SATs, so all the scores said, you don't belong at Princeton. And there were people who saw me, saw the color of my skin, and said, you're aiming too high. And that was my first insecurity of thinking, well, maybe I don't belong here.
So how did you overcome that belief that you don't belong?
I got there and I looked around and went, oh my God, a lot of bright people, but there were a lot of people that were just... and sort of realized that affirmative action isn't just the color. I wasn't good on SATs,
So I'll go into this a little bit more when I pull up the clip on Joy Reid, but what Michelle Obama is saying, she didn't say her actual scores, but she's saying that her scores weren't in alignment with some of the people at Princeton, so that people were saying that she got in solely because of her color. She acknowledged that affirmative action did help her get into Princeton, and then later she went to Harvard Law School. But she also said when she got there were students, I'm assuming, that weren't black who also had scores similar to hers. And basically what she said was she looked around and she did the work and realized that she was capable of doing the work. So I believe that that's good. That's good because people need to understand, if you put forth the effort, it's a lot you can do. So it's good that she overcame her insecurities and her fears. But I think it's also good that she acknowledged the truth that maybe her scores weren't the same as everyone there. And she is basically speaking to the fact that with DEI, maybe I'll go into this later with the next clip, but with DEI, every racial group and every gender is not expected to meet the same standards. So Asians have the hardest standard with getting into Ivy League schools and other schools, then whites, then Hispanics, and then blacks. So mostly what we hear is how blacks are getting advantage, but actually blacks, Hispanics, and whites are getting advantage and preferential treatment over Asians with DEI. It's not just something that benefits people of color, it also benefits white people. And as a whole, white women benefit a lot because they're white and also women. So they get extra points for their gender and their race. This is the same clip, but someone mentioned how Charlie Kirk had also in the past talked about his dislike for affirmative action. I don't really support. I probably have benefited from affirmative action or DEI, but I'm not in support of it because I do understand that we should judge everybody fairly and everybody the same. So these advantages and preferential treatment that we're giving to blacks, Hispanics, and whites at the detriment of Asians should be abolished, but I don't think it's just a black issue. And then also I understand that everybody, though we have the same opportunity as far as test taking, we don't know the same people. So some people are just born into better networking and better family situations. So a person whose family is either already gone to an Ivy League school may get in because of a legacy admission, but also just if your family has money and you know other people with money, think about Donald Trump or think about Michelle Obama now because her husband is the president. Who you know matters. So DEI doesn't just have to be something that's helping people based on race. It doesn't have to just be helping people based on sex, gender. It could also be benefiting people on socioeconomic status. So regardless of your race, if you're coming from a low income place and you haven't been able to network, it's potential. I'm not sure if this is how it's being used, but there's potential there to try to even the playing field and give everybody more of an equal opportunity. We can never all have the same opportunities. We have different gifts, different abilities, but there are some things we can do to make things fairer for more people. Continuing with this, there was a clip where Joy Reid acknowledged that she got into school because of affirmative action. For Joy and Michelle Obama, back then it was called affirmative action, not DI. So I'll play this clip and another clip where Joy actually brings up JD Vance, who also went to an Ivy League school.
As many times as I have been called DEI or an affirmative action baby and all that, you know what I never get? Mad. Because I actually am very much in favor of DEI. I don't take that as an insult because I understand that that means that I'm just damn excellent and innovative. And yeah, I am DEI. I'm bringing diversity, and that's bringing something great. You're not insulting me. If you say, oh, you're an affirmative action person that got into Harvard, I'm like, yeah, I got into Harvard with affirmative action, and Yale, and Brown, and also, Vassar, and the University of Denver.
Okay, so before I go to the next clip, I didn't know she had went to all those schools, but she named a few schools that she got into. Those are all tough schools, just like Michelle graduated from Princeton and then graduated from Harvard Law. So maybe they got in because of affirmative action, but to graduate, they had to be able to do the work. So these students that they are letting in, Joy and Michelle, obviously are capable of doing the work. Otherwise, they would not have graduated. I'll go to the next clip of Joy. I'll let it play, but there's a quote if you guys want to read it before watching it. I'll read it. JD Vance got into Yale because they were tired of just letting in white people from New York, which I could break that down. White people from New York, I've looked at the test scores, and generally speaking, there are regional differences, like the North scores higher than the South, whites score higher than blacks, Asians score higher than whites, but amongst whites, Jewish whites score higher than whites. They go down as white on the official test scores, but they've done studies and the whites who are doing well are Jewish, and it just so happens that New York and Los Angeles have the highest percentage of Jewish people. So she's saying that white men from New York are scoring high, but if you were to look into the data, it probably would show you that these are Jewish people who are white in New York scoring high. So she's just saying that for JD Vance to get in, she's insinuating that maybe his scores were not as high as the average applicant in other whites, but she's saying that he got in as a white person from Appalachia. They wanted to let in more non-Jewish whites. I believe the statistics, I don't have them in front of me, but I believe that, I know Asians are like about 40%. At Harvard, the student population is about 45% Asian. I believe across all of the Ivy Leagues, Asians are somewhere between 35 to 50%. So mostly Ivy League schools are Asians. Then of the whites, which is usually about 30% of the school, of the whites, 12% of those whites are Jewish. So again, there's a very high overrepresentation of Jewish and Asian people at Ivy League schools. Let's play this clip.
As smart as I know my ass is, Ketanji Brown is smarter. Smartest person I've ever met in my life. When you smart, I'm smart. That lady is smart on a level I've never seen before. And her 3 roommates were even smarter. These girls were so smart that we were shocked that we'd ever met anybody that intelligent. And Amy Coney Barrett, on the other hand, is a Supreme Court justice just like Ketanji, even though her qualifications are minuscule compared to Ketanji's. Maybe that's the affirmative action we've been getting. White people who are essentially mediocre in scale compared to a black person getting the spot because they wanted a conservative. Maybe the way that JD Vance got into Yale is because they were tired of just letting in white men from New York, from Choate, from all the elite schools, and they wanted an Appalachian white. That's how that man got into Yale, I promise you. Same thing with Ron DeSantis from a small town in Florida. They wanted to just get out of the New York, D.C. matrix, Massachusetts matrix, and let somebody into Harvard and Yale who came from a different place. He came from Florida. Baby, that's also affirmative action and DEI. So before y'all start going crazy about DEI just meaning they let black people in just on the basis of being black, think a little more critically and think about the fact that it's also disabled people, military veterans, people who come from Appalachia, white folks who come from Alaska and different places that they don't normally come from, indigenous people, Latinos, Asians. And the last thing I'll say about this, for all of y'all people on Fox that are going to clip this because y'all mad about affirmative action, because yes, I embrace affirmative action because I belonged at Harvard and I was smarter than all the legacies I went to school with, who only were there because they were rich and their parents had a name on one of the buildings and they didn't go to class and I did. So I'm just going to let y'all know that we see affirmative action as these schools searching for people they wouldn't have ordinarily found without deliberately looking for us. They would have just let the same mediocre white men from rich families in. But instead, they let me in. And because of that, you now have the ability to attack me, right-wingers. You have the ability to know who I am when I don't know who most of y'all are. But you know me because affirmative action brought me your way. Tell the Lord thank you. Be great.
Okay, so the producer always tells me to come prepared. I hadn't actually watched the clip, but there's a lot to unpack here. So I see I always say this, guys, but I see both sides of the situation. All she's doing is she's bringing up the fact that there were legacy people that went to school with her who may have not had the score she had. They may have been people from Appalachia. They may have been people, as she said, I don't agree with the Asian take because Asians generally score way higher than the other races, but people from Alaska and just other demographics who normally don't go to Ivy League schools. So I understand that it doesn't just help blacks and it's potentially helping the Ivy Leagues have a more diversity in terms of not just the race, but the type of people going to the school, which diversity can bring its strengths. It brings diversity of thought. It brings diversity to different cultures. Different cultures have different needs. Different cultures put emphasis on different things. So I see why Ivy League schools wanted more diversity, and I support that. But I would also implore Joy and Michelle and other people to understand that when your scores are lower than some of the white kids who, because of DEI, didn't go to the Ivy League schools, but instead they may have had scores that would have put them at Ivy League schools, but instead they are going to schools like maybe a Pittsburgh or Boston College. I can see why there's some resentment because those white people are going to say, but I had scores better than yours. I was just intelligent as you. I didn't get the opportunity. So though I'm okay with what DEI has brought, I think that Joy and some of the other people who are on the left, they sometimes are inconsiderate and not understanding of why certain people are upset. Certain people feel that they also deserve that opportunity and that opportunity was taken away from them and they deserved it. So that's just something that I want people to be mindful of about this DEI conversation. There, I believe, some benefits, but there are also some negatives. And just generally speaking, the average, I think I said this earlier in the episode, but the average IQ for the Asians at the Ivies is 150. The average IQ for whites at the Ivies is about 145. The average for Hispanics is about, the average for Hispanics is about 140. And then the average for blacks is about 130. So with IQ scores, anything over 120 is considered high. Anything over 140 is considered exceptionally high. So the Asians, the whites, and the Hispanics who are at the Ivy League schools, generally, I would say, just off their scores belong. With the blacks being at 130, they're intelligent. 130 is a high IQ. I don't know if you can say very high, but it's definitely a high IQ. The only issue that I do see is that, let's say 140 was the cutoff and the blacks didn't make it, because not all the blacks, but the average black in the Ivy school didn't make it. I would just say that the 140s, the Hispanics, whites, and Asians are highly exceptional, whereas some of the blacks may be, I won't say better placed, but they may fit along the lines intelligence-wise and scores-wise of people at Boston College, or Tulane down south that's in New Orleans, my hometown, and then Boston College. So, in Pittsburgh University. So these are good, reputable schools. So I think that it's an insult to the blacks at Ivy League schools who get called low IQ or say they don't have their job because of merit or say they're not where they are in life because of merit. I mean, even if they had not gone to the Ivy League schools, the average black at an Ivy League school still would have gone to a very prestigious college. So it's just ridiculous to call the blacks at Ivy League schools DI hires. They're exceptionally bright people. In case you guys want to see the statistics on the averages for Ivy Leagues, and I also have the averages for Harvard specifically, you can see that the scores for the Ivy League schools for Asians is 1550 on the SAT. Practically nothing wrong. You can get a 1600 on the SAT. The average white score is 1500 on the SAT. Hispanic is 1400 and black is 1350. Also, they have the ACT scores. Just for Asians is 35, for whites is 34, Hispanics is 31. So that's not low, but I do see a difference between like 35, 34, and then 31. And then blacks are at 29. At Harvard, they get at 30. So blacks at around 30 is kind of low. I suppose this is saying that the Hispanics are 135, so they're not quite 140 like I said. So yeah, maybe the Hispanics at Ivy League schools also need to do a little bit better. And then the whites and Asians are both above 140, but 150 is not 145. So again, they are still holding Asians to a higher standard than whites to get into the Ivy League schools. Now actually moving on to reactions. There are a couple clips that the producer pulled up today. Let's see what this one is about. It's Nick Fuentes knew Tucker Carlson's dad was CIA before Tucker did. Okay. How did you have to believe him? Okay. Tucker also hates the CIA, so he can't be working for intelligence. I'm not sure if they're being facetious or not, SAT word, but I'll check out the clip and let you guys know my thoughts.
I probably shouldn't even say this, but the only reason I know who he is because someone sent me a video a few years ago of him attacking me. And I was like, so I'm looking at this. And I'm like, well, first of all, this kid's really talented, like legit. And I can assess that just having done the job for so long. So I was like, wow, lots of talent, native talent. And he's attacking my dad as a CIA, his dad's in the CIA or whatever. And I'm like, well, that's no, untrue. Then my father dies, and I learn actually, was involved in that world. I was completely shocked by it. So no one has to believe me, but that's just a fact.
Right.
This was in March of this year. And I'm like, well, how the hell would this child from Chicago, my dad was 84 when he passed. Like, who does this guy know who my dad is? And like, he's in intelligence. How would he know that?
Wait, so that was his critique of you? Because I didn't see it.
Someone just sent me this video and was like, you can't believe anything Carlson says because his father was in the CIA and he's a CIA working on behalf of the CIA. Well, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, and I actually feel emotional in my anger towards CIA. And I think of that comes out on the air quite regularly.
Right.
And so the idea that I'm working for the CIA is like deranged.
Well, if it helps, he said I'm funded by Russia now. Since the interview, he then did a thing and said I was funded by Russia.
But you would be a lot more likely to take Russian money than I would be to work for the CIA, because you would never take Russian money and you're not Russian. But I mean, I really hate the CIA. And I mean, that's like very offensive to me. So why would you?
It's like personal for you.
Well, a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, so this was Candace and Tucker Carlson, and they have a tension between them, and but Nick has a tension with Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. So they're kind of discussing and somewhat bashing Nick, I suppose, in that clip. I didn't know Tucker's dad was CIA. He says he found out later in life, but he says he has issues with the CIA, and he says that he would never support the CIA. Not sure if he's being serious or if he's trying to lead us on, basically lying to the public. Sometimes Nick has been right in his assessment. Sometimes I think he's wrong. I don't know much about this situation. Maybe, I guess Nick is about to talk some more about Tucker's ties to the CIA. So I'll learn more about if Tucker's telling the truth potentially or not. Nick Fuentes teaches Tucker about his CIA agent dad, Dick Carlson. Tucker did not know his own father was in the CIA until he found out from Nick. Okay.
Well, Tucker, I'm glad you're tuning in, because this kid from Chicago, this 26-year-old kid from Chicago with this chip in the shoulder and the world in his eyes, is about to tell you more about your dad. If you were surprised to find out your dad was CIA, I'm about to blow your mind. And I didn't get this information from the CIA. I got it from Mint Press News. I got it from C-SPAN. I got it from Wikipedia. It's all available on the internet. You should try it sometime. Tucker says he doesn't own a TV. He doesn't use email. Maybe that's why he doesn't know this information, right? Tucker frequently says, I never watch TV. I don't even own a TV. I don't even use email. That's probably why he's so out of the loop, because all this information is on the internet. It's all there. If you Google Dick Carlson, you'll find all of this. So someone send him the clip, someone transcribe it onto a leaf or translate it into Morse code or smoke signals, whatever Tucker is able to interpret, however he gets his media. Someone could write it on a note and pass it to him by the Pony Express. And I will teach him more about his own dad. I can do that because I'm a 26-year-old kid from Chicago with internet access and a phone and a TV. This is from Mint Press News. It says, Dick Carlson is an important journalist and high state official who was appointed by Ronald Reagan as director of the U.S. Information Agency, the body that oversees government-funded media, including Voice of America, of which Dick was also the director. Together, these outlets are part of what the New York Times called a worldwide propaganda network built by the CIA. This is Tucker's dad. Tucker's dad was a Reagan appointee, confirmed in the Senate, to run U.S. Information Agency, which runs Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, all of it. The New York Times called it a worldwide propaganda network built by the CIA. And up until the 70s, it was exclusively funded by the CIA. In his position as director of USIA, Dick played a considerable role in the downfall of the Soviet Union. In a 1990 event alongside media moguls Rupert Murdoch and Ted Turner, Rupert Murdoch, Tucker's future boss, he noted that, quote, I think we would all agree that international broadcasting, this is Dick Carlson in 1990. This is a quote. I'm going to read it to you. Tucker's dad said this, I think we would all agree that international broadcasting played a very critical role, as was suggested by Mr. Murdoch, the owner of Fox News, and the events that took place in the USSR and Eastern Europe over the last couple of years. From Beijing to Budapest to Warsaw to Vilnius, information poured across borders and news that millions of people had stood up to their oppressors helped millions of others sweep those oppressors away. He is referring to regime change color revolutions backed by the CIA media empire that he ran. He said, I also believe that international broadcasters were equally important in laying the groundwork for the democratic revolutions that we have seen. Isn't it incredible how Western all of those Eastern Europeans sound, talking about freedom, democracy, free enterprise, environmental concerns? And they don't get those ideas from their own media or from textbooks in their countries. They get them mainly from international broadcasters like Voice of America, BBC Radio, Liberty Media for Europe.
Okay, so as I was saying, I didn't know much about the Tucker Carlson and his dad. But I do think that Tucker's lying. If his dad was confirmed by the Senate, he was an appointee by Ronald Reagan, and Nick found this information just off a Google search. I'm sure not only did Tucker Carlson know this, he knows much more. So it's coming across to me like Tucker's probably lying to the American people, which is unfortunate. And based upon what Nick is saying, Tucker's dad, Dick Carlson, did a lot of work for the CIA, a lot of important work. He was behind the fall of certain governments and various regimes around the world. So it seems that his dad had a lot of knowledge, and he probably passed it along to Tucker. And as I learn more about the CIA, I would try to become more knowledgeable about the various things that we have done. I was aware that the CIA helped with regime changes and coups and things, but it's a lot of information I'm getting from Nick. And he's actually very funny. Like, he started this off kind of trashing Tucker, and I chuckled a few times because he was really punishing him.
Tucker's father, Dick, ran the CIA's propaganda empire, pushing color revolutions in the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact, in Tiananmen Square, in China. That's what the event was about. They were reflecting on the Tiananmen Square massacre, where Voice of America operatives were there spreading information about the student protests. Color revolutions In all the communist countries, and in China in particular, Dick Carlson wanted to overthrow the communist Chinese, and he played a part running Voice of America in 1989 to do this. And he bragged about how the peoples of the world are throwing off their oppressors, learning about free enterprise, democracy through Voice of America, which he ran. It's very important stuff. Appointed by Reagan. In the same job, Dick was a key component in the ultimately successful attempt to bring down the leftist Sandinista government in Nicaragua through hybrid warfare. That's the Iran-Contras affair, where Israel brokered arms and money exchanges, giving Iran weapons and money to fund the Contra fighters, the anti-communists in Nicaragua, the right-wing death squads. Dick was helping to do this. Dick would later be appointed by President George H.W. Bush as U.S. ambassador to the Seychelles and serve on a number of neoconservative think tanks. Chief among these is the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, an organization widely accused of being little more than a front for the Israel lobby. Indeed, when asked point blank if that were the case, he refused to deny it, stating only that Israel is a country under siege. It's a democracy in a part of the world where there are no democracies, and it is under constant irregular terrorist attack and threat. Also on the board of the FDD at that time were Jeane Kirkpatrick, a high official at the board of the FDD at that time, a high official at the center of the Iran-Contras affair, and R. James Woolsey, the CIA director from 1993 to 1995. Dick would later team up with Woolsey again at the Institute for the Study of Terrorism and Political Violence. Okay?
I knew a little bit about the Iran-Contra situation, not the Israel angle, but in the black community in the 80s, after the situation that Nick is talking about, a lot of guns and drugs came into the inner cities, and a lot of people blamed it on the foreign wars that were happening. So I knew about what it had done to the black community as far as gang violence, as far as the rise of the Crips and Bloods, etc. Now learning that it also had some ties to Israel and other things on a national scale, I'm going to look into this topic some more, because it seems that, and this makes sense, certain things that play out domestically also have foreign impacts. So we may be believing, oh, such and such is happening to help this community in America or to help this political party. But there are even larger entities outside of just America who are at play. So sometimes it may be a foreign government like China involved, like they said with TikTok. Now some Jewish person has bought TikTok, and he's talking about how Israel played a role in the contraband situation. So though many of us just notice what happens with locally or in our community, I think it's a good idea to see how what's playing out in our life has other effects on broader scales, because you may start seeing what's behind the thing you see. And then potentially, as I look into this, there may be things behind that. So there's just a lot that we can all learn from listening to one another. I've, again, done a few of these Nick clips. And really, when he doesn't talk about blacks, I mean, he's pretty on point with me. So I'll try to work on my bias for when he's talking about blacks and see if maybe some of the things he's saying about blacks, maybe they're true. So maybe if I give him a little bit more of an open ear, I may learn some things that help myself and my community. But yeah, I just think watching this clip also has been informative for me. So I never thought I would say this, but if you're interested in learning more about the CIA and specifically Israel, even though I still think Nick may be biased, consistently he's been sharing a lot of information I didn't know. So I'm actually comfortable now saying, go ahead, you can't check him out on YouTube, he's banned. But I'd actually say, go ahead, check out Nick's Rumble if you want more information about Israel specifically. Because he seems to have a lot of information about their past, as well as their ancient past, their recent past, and the current administration. So he's someone who I think at least you could learn valuable information from.
So, to summarize, Tucker Carlson's father was appointed by Reagan to do U.S. information warfare, running the CIA's propaganda empire of international broadcasters, facilitating the overthrow of communist governments like the left-wing government in Nicaragua during Iran-Contras, and in China during the Tiananmen Square massacre. And he was bragging on a panel with Rupert Murdoch, the founder of Fox News, who the Reagan administration got into the United States, because he's from another country, Dick Carlson then went on to work for neoconservative think tanks where he defended Israel. They're basically an outfit for Israel, working with other CIA agents involved in Iran-Contras at these various NGOs. That's Tucker Carlson's dad. That Tucker did not know was in the CIA. That Tucker is pleading ignorance. He was shocked, just absolutely shocked, that his father that ran Voice of America and USAI, his father that was at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, that was at these other neocon think tanks, appointed by George Bush as an ambassador, didn't know he was in the CIA world until he heard it from me, until he found out just this year. Now, of course, what is Tucker Carlson? Well, Tucker Carlson is a broadcaster. Sort of interesting. Dick Carlson ran the CIA's empire of broadcasters. Tucker's a broadcaster working at Fox News under Rupert Murdoch that Dick was friends with.
So I was also, the clip is pretty much over. I also was catching the Robert Murdoch, Fox, neocons. I was catching some of the people he was bringing up. He didn't bring up Oliver North, but I know who Oliver North was. So I now see somewhat of the connection. Last clip we talked about, last clip I did on Nick, he talked about the CIA and the Jewish connection. Now he's talking about the media and how they push American exceptionalism. They push why we need to get involved in these foreign wars. So I can see how there's a potential that some foreign governments pay money and then the media, I'm not going to call it the media propaganda, but I do see how the same players are tied in where it's like, oh, this person's dad ran this. Fox person knew the CIA's person's dad, and he's also friends with this foreign leader. I am starting to see some of the connections there. I don't want to go into a full conspiracy because there's only a small amount of people at the top. So these same people that are on Fox, he also was talking about how the leftist liberals were trying to overthrow communism. So people of different groups, different ideologies may still intermingle with one another just because there's only a small amount of people at the top. But I was catching, and I think people should probably look more into, well, who are some of the people that Tucker's worked with, and who are some of the people Murdoch's worked with, and are they connected to Israel? Are they connected to China? Are they connected to Russia? Just so that as Americans, we better understand, is our government putting us first? Because America should put us first and then should be trying to help the world, not necessarily the politicians or the elites looking out for themselves and then helping us on the back end. So again, I think that Nick had a lot of valuable information. And when I get time, I'm going to take a step away from some of the more local and racial based and IQ and intelligence based information that I've been gathering for a while now. But I'm really interested, probably you guys can tell, I'm really interested in more of this Israel angle. I'm really interested more in learning about not even just Israel, but the CIA and just how the government works, right? We all talk about the government. We all want to be good civil citizens. We want to participate, but I want to find out. I've heard Republicans call it the deep state. I'm not calling this the deep state, but what I'm saying is I just want to be more knowledgeable about the different players because I would like our government, as I said earlier, I would like them to do for us. And the only way we'll know that is if we ourselves know more about some of the other entities and other factions at play. So I intend to look more into this topic as well as others. We've got time, so we're going to do some comments today. I put out a few videos about Nick, and so far those are the ones that more people are viewing and commenting to. So we've had more comments over the weekend. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate people watching. If you dislike, I guess it's okay to hit the dislike, but if you like, hit the like and share it with your friends. I do appreciate, though, the diverse opinions. So when people have a dissenting view from mine, please comment. It actually does more if you comment and let me know what you disagree about, and I can actually check it out. Whereas if you just dislike, I don't even know what you dislike. So if you leave a comment, I can look into the topic or even respond to it on this show. And of course, like I say, people who are liking it, thank you. Like I say, share it with more people because they may like the content as you like it as well. First comment. Oh no, I told you guys people are responding to Nick. They're to the Nick, but Emily Saves America has 3 comments. So people are responding to, I guess, a few reaction type videos. But I'll read a couple. This is from Nick Fuentes, Dear Black People. Whites, Asians, Hispanics, Arabs, Indians, etc. all know this is true and we all have no respect for that community. I guess they're talking about black people. Of this group of people that they named, whites, generally in America, Arabs and Indians are considered Caucasian. But they say whites, Asians, Hispanics, Arabs, etc. No, this is true. I do think the black community is doing negative things at a higher rate than all other communities. I just think every community is different. Asians behave differently from whites. Whites behave different from Hispanics. So I just don't think you can lump everybody against blacks. That's what I think one of the big problems is with race in America is when you group everyone and just single out blacks, it does make black people, it's not just how we feel, but it does kind of come off as racist because all blacks aren't doing bad things. But if people were just to say, oh, we should focus more on the blacks because there's more of an issue there, but there's a problem across the board, I think it would help with racial harmony. And I think that whites would be surprised by what blacks said in response. Not just myself. Many blacks are aware that there are problems in the black community. It would be easier for us to talk to white people and Hispanics about the problems in the black community if the conversation was just about negative things. And then we could share about the negatives across the races. But like the same thing with me and Nick, you know, sometimes I'm seeing these clips. Dear black people, we coming at blacks so hard, just like Stu did. It's like you coming at my people hard. I got to address the whites in Appalachia. I got to address the low IQ whites. I got to address the whites raping people, watching child pornography, the whites committing violence, doing mass murders, killing innocent people. I don't think that's white culture, but I just named a bunch of things that white people overrepresent that, but I wouldn't say that that's white culture. And that comment was from James Scozy, 7254. Appreciate the comment. Ryan Product Reviews, this is also Nick. Okay. Ryan Product Reviews says, shit, I say a lot when I'm drunk too. Doesn't mean I post them for 13 days and let my ass get cooked. No, homie, I wasn't drunk or anything. Nick just says things about my community. They're true, but they imply something and they insinuate things that aren't factual. So again, I'll just repeat myself so you can hear it. Whites overrepresented in child pornography. Whites have a large portion of people on welfare. Whites commit mass murder at a higher rate than other groups. Again, just because they overrepresent at these statistics, that doesn't mean I would call it white culture. That's all I'm saying. If I was to tell you that white culture was mass murder or was welfare or was violent crime, you would say, no, there's more to, or pop music or doing drugs. You would say there's more to white culture than that. There are good things and bad things. That's all I'm saying about the black community is there's good and there's bad. So if white people don't want us to consider them racist, be more nuanced and talk about the whole black community. Don't just solely focus on the negatives. That's the only problem. You can critique us and we will hold ourselves accountable, but it has to be a two-way street. We have to be talking to one another and not at one another. Sharon, again, see, this is a little different for us. We've been getting a lot of comments from males and I think white males because they've kind of been coming at me. But this is another comment from a woman. It says, that's how they met. So I guess the women are giving information about how Charlie and his wife met. I would check out the information you guys are providing because I didn't know about how they met. I don't know much about Erica Kirk. I'm interested in learning more. So the more you guys share, the better for me. If you find things out, share it with us on our socials or just share it in the comments. And I will take the time to look into who she is, how they met, and what she's up to, because that's what Nick was talking about. He was suspicious and skeptical of her. And like I say, I'm trying to wait and hold judgment. So whatever you guys send, I'll check it out to learn more about Erica. And again, our sympathy goes to her for losing her husband. Our condolences go to her for her losing her husband. This is Remis Fola 5703. They say Nick Fuentes is two-faced and all over the place. I don't know if he's two-faced, but I do kind of think he's all over the place because I find myself every episode going back and forth with him. He knows this. All right, this is conspiratorial. This makes sense. Oh, he's generalizing. So it's like, I mean, because he's like that, because there's so much going on, I try to give everybody a chance. So I'm looking at him now as like not someone who's always wrong or someone that's racist. I still think he's racist, but what I'm saying is now that I see that there's more to him, when I approach Nick now, I say, well, let me, even if you noticed, I let more of the video play this time. So it's like, I'm trying to at least see all where he's coming from because it's just so much with him. And maybe people think that about me because I do tend to talk a lot, as I've heard from the comments. Let me finish reading what you said. He is selective in criticizing Israel, suggesting he is not as free spirited as he portrays to be. I did notice that in that clip he said something about Erica Kirk potentially being involved in Charlie's murder, but previously for years I've seen clips of him talking about Israel, so I would have expected him to say Israel did it, not the wife. He is entitled to his own perspective. We all are. He has a knack of sniping at different people to boast ratings. Maybe it's a ratings thing, but maybe Nick feels that way. Like some things I say may come off as a ratings tactic, but it's really not. Like I talk to the producer often and we disagree. I really tell you guys my honest opinion. So sometimes the data may be telling us to say something else, but I always tell you guys what I actually believe. I believe in branding and just being authentic and honest with people. Okay, I read two more because the producer says I've been reading a lot of comments. This is from Airstream Your Girl. This entire day has been women comments. Again, we love you guys. Share it with your sisters. Share it with your girlfriends. Like, I'm black and I have been talking about Nick Fuentes, who people say is an anti-Semitic and a white supremacist. But I definitely want this show to be accessible and open to everybody. So women, please share your views. Wealthy people, please share your views. Low income people, don't be ashamed of being low income. We need everyone, from the janitors to the doctors to the school teachers to the managers at McDonald's to the managers on Wall Street, right? This country runs with everybody. So everybody who's doing something positive and dignified, I want you to join the discussion. I think that there are some people in the low incomes causing a problem with murder, but there are also people who are running countries. I hate to pick on Netanyahu, but there are people running countries who are wealthy and intelligent, causing mass destruction. So what you make does not speak to your character and it does not speak to your integrity. So I just want everybody to know they're welcome. Let me read the tweet now. Again, from Airstreamy Yo G Girl. You know, the first impression I got watching her two speeches was she did this. She seems to be aligned with Nick. She had a hand in this. I have to open this one up because it seems to go for it goes for a minute. This may be my last one, guys, for today. And why so much pomp and circumstance? Christians are supposed to live modestly. She's always dressed very expensively. Her parents are powerful. Knew nothing about Erica Kirk. Don't even know her maiden name. Charlie Kirk's dad used to work for Trump. Okay, I'm seeing how he got into where he got in the Republican Party. Not where he got, but maybe how he had some of the connections to get there. It all seems so set up. Okay, so Nick was saying potentially Charlie and Erica were set up by someone. This person is going along with the same vein. And voila. And are we talking cash? It is the secret anonymous island that powerful people go to and play dead Epstein. We're probably going to cover the Epstein files. They never put him out. He was a Jewish person. There are other elites, politicians, elite actors, elite entertainers. There are people, even Elon Musk was mentioned. I think maybe Steve Bannon. A lot of wealthy people knew this man. Obviously, maybe he donated to them, etc. But a lot of wealthy people knew him. A lot of wealthy people went to this island. I think across race, across gender, across socioeconomics, across political party, the American people clearly are against the harming of children. And this is one issue that we're seeing despite Americans being together. We want to know who is on the flights, who is doing things to the children. We want to know what was going on. They're not investigating it. So there's some kind of cover up with the Epstein files, and we all want to find out what's going on with that. So again, like I said, the show is accessible to everyone. That's one thing we all seem to have in common across the board. We want to find out who harmed the children. We want them held accountable, and we never want it to happen again. So we're calling on the politicians to do their job, do what we sent them to Congress to do, and give us the information on the Epstein files. Y'all have information clearly on it and won't even share it to the public. So if you want to keep your jobs, I suggest you start letting us know what's going on with the Epstein files. Let me calm down. They say I get a little animated. I care about the kids so much. And let me finish this comment. The TPUSA, which is Turning Point USA, seems to smell a lot more like elite Christians. Okay, like the Osteens. She's naming some of the big people in the Christian conservative world. Money is the name of the game, not Jesus. I don't know the Osteen family, so I definitely won't pass judgment. What are they up to? What is the connection to the White House for real? If Charlie Kirk was really killed for wanting to move away from Zionism, being an evangelical and seeming sincere, and the Bible adhering, unlike his fake Christian wife. So you're kind of like Nick with this. You're throwing out a lot of insults. I can't go that far. I don't know about their family. I don't know about the Osteens. But I do, when you touched on Epstein, I mean, I'm definitely in agreement with that. There are some wealthy people who are on those flights and doing things to children, and we're against that. We're done for today, guys. We changed up the show. If you check out this episode, I believe this is episode 13. If you checked out some of the previous episodes, let us know in the comments if you like the new direction. Talking about things a little bit quicker, trying to get straight to the point for you guys, and not going as in depth. So if you like the faster, quicker news, let us know, and we continue doing this show in this manner. Peace. Talk to you guys later. Blacks, Hispanics, and whites can't read. Why do you think I started a podcast? It's a fucking racist thing with you niggas, and that's why I'm coming at you niggas next. They love to talk about black violence. Have you heard of white violence? White people commit violent crime at 3 times the rate of Asians. When is Nick Fuentes going to talk about white violence? Everybody's arguing about there are 2 genders. I sat next to her hermaphrodite in math class. Am I allowed to talk about the Jews? If she wanted, we could do it in the morning. Yawning, letting my eyes stretch, baby, I ain't a novice. I've been a dog, she FaceTime, but I never